A lot of people, when I was in the pub last week, I'm always in the pub, so it could have been any week, asked me how did I get so interested in old guns. And I thought about it for a minute, and I've always been interested, and that's not really an answer. There must have been something that influenced me. I think it's very important that we really know where we've come from. And I racked my brains, and then I suddenly thought, this is the first thing that really got me interested in antique firearms. I've always been interested in history, and quite often the history in which I was interested involved military history, and they were people with guns. And I thought, well, I fancy a bit of that. And my parents, who were pretty liberal people, didn't object to me having toy guns as a boy, and I was very keen on them. I used to play cowboys and Indians and all kinds of things. I had bows and arrows as well, and we played Robin Hood, which you'd expect really, as I came from Nottingham. But the thing that really interested me in muzzle-loading firearms particularly is this little chap. Now, I can remember sitting in my mother's Morris Minor when we went down the Derby Road in Bramcote, and we stopped at a little post office, and I went in with Mum where she might have been going to get Granny's pension, I can't remember. And as you often find in small shops, they'd bought a few toys on the basis that bored children in post offices are a very good target for selling toys to. And I saw this little outlaw pirate pistol, and I thought, I've got to have that. I really have. I have got to have it. And eventually I pulled up Mother's sleeve and said, I like that. And my mother looked dubious. The lady behind the counter, sensing a sale, said, oh yes, yeah, everybody's got one of those. And eventually my mother gave way and I was bought this. And I think what probably attracted me to it was a typical pirate wooden leg, beard, cutlass, firing a pistol at a battleship. Now, why anybody would fire a pistol at a battleship? And it said, flintlock pistol with cap-activated bullets. And I thought, whoa, this has got to be for me. And so my mother dipped into her purse and bought me this. There's more scenes on the side of the box of further gratuitous violence with people chopping each other up with cutlasses. And on the back of it, there's some instructions on how you load this little chap. This little pistol was made by the BCM company, who operated not very far from where we are today in Derby. And it was a little bit of a backstreet operation, founded in 1949, taken over by a firm from the West Midlands in the 1970s, and out of business by the 1980s. So it was very much part of my childhood. And they made this little chap. Isn't that lovely? It's actually a rip-off of an American Nichols cap pistol. And quite how they got away with this, I've no idea. Perhaps they were licensed by the Nichols Corporation in America to make them. But they clearly weren't going to let any of that on, because on the box it states quite clearly that it was made by the BCM company of Derby. And it's supposed to be a flintlock pistol of the pirate era. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, isn't that just fabulous? Nobody else at my school got one of these. And I thought, you know, I'm going to be Blackbeard and scourge the seven seas with this. And the way that it works is that you cock this little hammer, and then you flip the little pan cover open, and there's a little thing there that's supposed to be the priming pan of real flintlock. But actually what you did, you put 3 or 4 roll caps on there, pull that down and shut it, and then you'll get one of these, still in its original bag from the 1960s. These are little red plastic pellets. They're hollow, they're very light. And you get one of those, and you would take from under the barrel, just like a real flintlock pistol, which is why I was so attracted to it. You take your little ramrod, there he is. They're often lost. You would take that, put your pellet down the barrel and ram it home. Put your ramrod away. Very important to put your ramrod away, otherwise your firearm, whether it be a real muzzleloader or even a toy like this, would be completely useless. And then you took careful aim at whatever it is that you wish to shoot, and down fell the hammer, which trapped the caps between the pan cover and the pan, caused them to explode, and the flash, or the gases from the caps, went through a hole in the barrel behind the red plastic pellet, and off it used to pop. And I thought this was absolutely wonderful. My mother must have spent all of her housekeeping buying me caps. I used to get through them. Within about 2 weeks of me acquiring this little chap, everybody had got one in our gang. We were armed to the teeth. Now, I can remember an incident with this when we were going onto some building land at the back of a friend of mine's house, and that land was reckoned by a group of girls from my school to be their turf, and woe betide you if they caught you on it. One of them, and I'm going to call her Jane Smith in case she is watching this, I don't want her to be embarrassed. Jane Smith was a very large girl. She was very sporty, and she was always armed with a hockey stick. And you did not take Jane Smith on unless you wanted your legs breaking. And we were on this bit of land where there were boys with bows and arrows. 2 or 3 of us had our little pocket pistols. And suddenly this great gaggle of girls came from nowhere, led by the same James Smith, and decided that they would choke us off and give us a good hiding as well. We legged it for the wall of a boy called William Harris, his garden. We thought if we can get into Harris's garden, we're safe. And I was lagging behind a bit because I've never been good at running. And I could almost feel Jane Smith's breath on my neck. I thought that hockey stick is going to come down from me any moment. And I turned with my pistol and fired it at her, and hit her in the face. How it never blinded the poor girl, I really don't know. But she went down like a bag of spuds, sufficiently so that I could actually get a hockey stick and hit her with it and then run away with it as a trophy. By this time, the other chaps had reached the wall and they were laying some covering fire down with some arrows, and the day was ours. And that was all down to this little pistol. Now, recently, I have to say, I'm a bit of a sad old bloke. I do collect toys. I have recently acquired this. A cased pair. You know, I always wanted a cased pair of pistols, but I'm afraid a real pair of case degree pistols at several £1,000s are way out of my budget, so I had to make do with this. But there are actually 2 of these little fellows in there, and there are 6 red plastic bullets for each of them. There is a roll of pistol caps, an original one, not touched, probably made by the Benoit Fireworks Company. There's a nice little brush that, if you found that your pistol was getting too much residue, you could give it a great big cleaning out like that. And that actually taught me that guns need to be looked after, and that you didn't just use them and then leave them dirty and put them aside. But I think best of all is this little bottle of BP gun oil. Now, I'm a betting man. I can bet that has been nowhere near BP. I just think that this company, who had probably ripped off the design of the pistol, probably ripped the petroleum company off as well for good measure. And this was probably any old oil that Fred found round the back of the garage, put in that lovely little bottle with a cork and a little applicator, so that if your pistol was getting a bit stiff when you cocked it, put a little bit of oil on it, on there, just to help it along. And that established in my mind that not only did I really want to fire a real flintlock pistol, and I own several now, but it also taught me that you need to look after your firearms, and to be quite frank, you can never clean a gun too often. So that was really all my yesteryears. Thank you for sharing that with me. I just absolutely love this. Whenever I pick one up, and I have this little fellow on my desk, I go back to my childhood, and the memories just come flooding back. And I think it's so important that we know where we've come from, and that started me off.